red zone isn't necessarily the thing that's costing the Niners games. I think special teams is the biggest problem with this team by far. So my question is there a fix here for the special teams, or is this something that's going to be an issue all year?
Well, they just picked up a player from the New York Giants, Nick McLeod, who's a really good special teamer. Part of it, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it more than anything. First of all, I've talked to a few people in Seattle. They said that Schneider was a celebrated special teams coach up there, and that, he had some personal issues at the end, but that he was very much celebrated as an outstanding special teams coach. So he's got a good reputation. They drafted a kicker in the third, a punter in the fourth. They signed a number of special teams only guys. Ray McLeod in the past, and George Odom and others. I mean, they should have a lot of the pieces. I think it hurt them when they had to promote guys like Mustafa and Green for off special teams into the lineup. But I mean, every team does that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. Kyle was asked about it yesterday. The media is asking we're asking these kind of like softball, not softball, but like, softly answering, asking,
hey, you're going to look into that special teams problem? What do you think?
Yeah. So, people are guys, guys are asking questions like, do you think that maybe you could practice it a little bit more, because we don't know. And we're
point of emphasis. He's like, we do that. Oh, okay, cool.
Talk with your hands. Do you think maybe? And he's like, hey, we practice it a ton and we're doing this. And I mean, it's like, he's got all the answers except on game day when he has got none. So it's like, you can't have all the answers at the presser on special teams and have no answers on game day. You got that. Those things have got to align. You've got to have the same number of answers on game day as you do at the press conference. So I don't know what the answer is. I would love to see the one thing that I think you're going to see more of is, you know what? In Seattle, the one thing that I found out about the people up there is that when Schneider was up there, he used a lot of his starters, defensive starters, played special teams. And the Niners may have to put some more of their defensive starters.
Jimmy Ward used to do it.
Teams.
Jimmy Ward always played special teams.
I mean, Debo played special teams this last week. You may have to take a couple coverage guys. You may have to take some guys and have them play on the coverage units. That may mean that Malik Mustafa's got to play coverage. He's got to play on the coverage unit and play on defense. I mean, you might have to do that. You may have to use some defensive starters if you're not getting the performance you want. It's really the coverage unit that I'm worried the most about. I mean, Moody obviously just missed a bunch of field goals, but I think he'll get over that. But I don't, the coverage units have been a circus.
I think it's all been a circus. I like what you're saying. They got to shake it up with their personnel. They can't fire Brian Schneider midseason because I don't think there's a special teams coordinator on the couch who's any better who would fix this. So you're stuck with them. You're invested. What they can, let's go position by position. Cowling. I know it wasn't his fault.
Oh, yeah.
It was Luder.
No, come on. Cowling. I love Cowling. I've interviewed him like 4 times.
I love Cowling. Yeah.
You cannot be Kyle Shanahan and go to the podium and tell us that you just don't want to lose the game on special teams and then have Trent Taylor, who's probably the most sure-handed return guy, and go with Jacob Cowling. You can't go. You can't have Trent Taylor, but go with Cowling and say that you don't want to lose the game on special teams. You don't care about winning the game on special teams. You just don't want to lose it. Then go with the most sure-handed guy. If I were them, I would not return punts at all. Just let them bounce. Just go for the block and let them bounce, and we'll take the ball wherever it bounces.
Just catch it. But Cowling, he had the nice return at the end against the Buccaneers. That was great, but I think he's more likely to have a bad play than a good play as a returner.
He can't stay on his feet. And also he's a fumble waiting to happen.
Yep. I'm sorry, Jacob, but I think they need to find someone else, either Pearsall or Trent Taylor. So that's one spot they could improve. And then the kicker. Look, Jake Moody is very talented. Josh Dubois had a really interesting stat. He said kickers on the team that they were drafted by essentially make about 82% of their kicks, and kickers on teams that they weren't drafted by make about 84 historically. I think there's a lot of pressure on a kicker when you're drafted in the 3rd round because are you really a football player? You're supposed to be incredible. And it's very mental. It's a lot of pressure. If you crumble, we've seen that Robert Aguayo, first round, second round, third round picks who are kickers often end up being punchlines. And maybe all he needs is like Carlson. He was a huge disappointment for the Packers. Comes over to the Niners. He's great. No pressure. No one even knows that he was a sixth round pick. But with Moody, there's a ton of pressure. If he goes some other team, he might be just great. I don't know if he's the right kicker for the 49ers. I'm not saying get rid of him now, but I wouldn't just have him be the kicker in the playoffs if he doesn't get it together.
It's really
he was 3 in the playoffs last year. 3.
The whole thing is perplexing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, Moody's got a big leg. In the old days, all that mattered was that you made the field goals. Now you've got to make the field goals and you got to have a strong enough leg to kick it through the back of the end zone. It's a 2 evaluation thing now instead of a 1 evaluation thing. So
also, do they need a strong-legged kicker? They're a team that gets into the red zone more than any other team in the league almost. I think what you need is a guy who's absolutely freaking money inside 45, which is what Robbie Gould was. You don't need a guy who can hit a 57-yard field goal. You should be going for it.
You know, LVL7 here says Cards are probably going to have to cut Prater or Chad Ryland soon. I like Ryland, who was drafted by the Patriots out of Maryland and is a pretty good kicker. Kicked against the Niners earlier this year. I mean, the thing about Moody is so frustrating. It used to be all you cared about was the field goals. Now you care about the returns as well. And he's the guy that can kick it through the back of the end zone. But I think there is something to, I mean, first of all, never again invest in a 3rd round or 4th round kicker or punter. Nope. Pick guys off the street. I mean, you had to go off the street. You found Matthew Wright and Anders Carlson. They went 8 for 8, and then you go back to Jake and he misses 3. I guess the question is, Jake. I interviewed Jake last week before the game, and he said, or the Friday before the game, and he said, I said, is there any pain? And he's like, no, only a tad little bit on the when I actually kick. And I'm like, well, isn't that make you want to change your stroke? Or he's like, no, it's not. It's minimal. It's a minimal amount of pain. Okay. But if he's having any pain when he's kicking, why wouldn't you just give him an extra couple weeks?
Agreed.
Instead, they got rid of Carlson. Now Carlson's a Jet. Now there's, can't get Carlson back. Wright's hurt. So he's got a shoulder. He's not ready. So, I mean, they got to go with, I mean, they're going to go with Jake. And I think they want to go with Jake long-term. But I think John and Kyle both know that the minute they decide to jump off the Moody bandwagon, the criticism's coming for them because they're the ones who invested the 3rd round pick in him.
Yeah, if they had taken him in round 6, he'd be gone, probably.
Yeah,
but they took him in round 3. They put their neck out for him. They made a huge investment, and they don't want to give up on it just yet. I understand, but he better not lose them anymore. If he misses a kick that loses them a game, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, and then who do you get? I mean, that's the other one. I mean, it's like, yeah, he's gone, but you better be able to find somebody because And then the other thing is, how important is kicking it through the back of the end zone? Is it vitally important? Because that's one thing he does.
Well, it's important for a team that doesn't cover well.